You want it? You got it. Reality radio done right. No nonsense, real and raw, just like you like it.
He's corrupt, he's inexperienced, and he lies.
Broadcasting from a broom closet in the Arizona Lotus Studios, it's Beef Vegan Presents.
Yo, welcome back to the show. It's Beef Vegan Presents live KFMA worldwide at KFMA.com on this beautiful Wednesday, March 15th. Good morning, Tucson. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got lots of listener bait in 9 o'clock hour for our podcast broadcast. Well, special guest Jimmy Hall from Tigercub, which I'm very excited about. And that name, for you don't know them yet, but they're part of a class of bands that I see very prominent future in, and I feel like we're all going to blow up and become household names. And Tigercub is like an exceptional example of that. So we're going to go through that. Of course, also, we got our March Sadness emo bracket at 7:30 today. I will review the 2 songs that are going head-to-head against each other, and you can vote to pass one along to the next round, and every winning vote qualifies you for the grand prize, tickets for the When We Were Young Music Festival, plus hotel and airfare. So you must be listening 30 when I give out that keyword to text in, and I'll reveal what 2 songs are going to be playing against each other. So it's super good. Speaking of new music, Avenged came a new single last night at midnight, and we actually debuted it in a show in the 9 o'clock hour yesterday.
Yes.
And Wierdo, you shot a reaction video to this.
I did.
And I was trying to get your takeaway from Avenged Sevenfold because I have a strong opinion of it as well. But then the show opens. Started. What were you saying about the Sevenfold? What's the name of this song again?
The name of the single is called Nobody, and they the new album, Life Is But a Dream, on June 2nd. Was the countdown on their website. They posted it, and I first knew about 30 seconds of it on the FM side yesterday morning, and I was like, I got to give this a fair listen. It is 6-minute song.
No, I think it's even longer versions on the album. That was their single edit, and then they have to give another edit for radio, but I don't see the point. Did they name it because they thought that's how many people would like the song?
No. Come on, you are. No, it's with they had a stop motion animation video with it, visually striking, very cold to hold door. Felt very like Dark Rush or Pink, the experimental, which they were doing with the stage back in 2016, and they've just leaned in harder. And honestly, I dug it. For my reaction, Shadow's voice, I was like, what's going on? It feels like it's holding back. But once you listen to the song in the entirety, that was done on purpose because music showed off really well.
Well, they did show off, and that was my takeaway. It seemed like they were all trying to show off, and everyone meant to be. I'm not doing the pre-recorded show open today. What's up? Yeah, the computer does suck. Scott's fixing it. He's like, I ran into him yesterday. He's kind of been avoiding me, right? To try to get this new computer. And he's like, yeah, I got it built. It's right outside my office. But we've had to launch a new station because we got a new Spanish station. And that's why he had to, drop everything and do that. And I'm like, oh, that's great. But if you would have done it ahead of time, you wouldn't always have to push it off. The reason why, you are behind I have to wait is because you didn't do it when you should have did it in the first place. So it's always. So I'm going to get a new computer. I wanted it before today because we're going to be having a very special guest joining us here, which I'm very excited about. And I hope there's no technical difficulties because I want to use this to clip up shit because I really believe the guy that we're having on today named Jamie Hall, the lead singer and guitarist of Tigercub, is so talented and so established. He's basically part of the class that is the future of rock and roll. We talked about Aftershock Festival today and the headliners there, Guns N' Roses and Korn, Queens of the Stone Age. This guy and this band, along with some other bands, those are the future headliners. This is a big deal. And you're going to get to know Jamie Hall because we're ready for a great conversation with him. And a fun fact, which I said on the air, which is mind blowing, is that he's 7 feet tall.
Yes.
The tallest rock star in the history of popular music. And the world doesn't even know that yet. Now, they, of course, they have a great following. They have tons of subscribers and plays on Spotify. In fact, there's several songs that have 3 million plays on Spotify. So it's like technically platinum. We have a new single that we just picked up. But honestly, they've been on my radar for a couple of years. And there's some songs that I'm so stoked about that are older songs that should be in rotation as gold records right now. But, you know, radio moves slowly, unfortunately, and the internet moves a little faster. And
yeah, you introduced them to me today, and damn.
I know.
So good.
I know. Yeah, Weirdo and I have been jamming out, like getting crazy with it. I've been so stoked about that too. So we are getting ready. Jamie should be joining us momentarily. And then when we do, we're going to be, you know, playing lyrical breakdown and everything else. In fact, actually, I wrote this in the description of the YouTube page. Ready for this? Or should I wait for Jamie to give this a pretty impressive introduction? Right?
I mean, if you want to give a little tease.
Okay, well, I'll do it. I mean, the people, well, you know, he's joining us right now.
Oh, there we go.
So let me get into this impressive introduction, Weirdo.
Okay.
As I introduce our guest to the podcast broadcast stream. Jamie Hall is a talented singer and guitarist who hails from Brighton-based rock band Tigercub. All right. With a distinct style and emotive voice, Hall has garnered a reputation as a compelling performer and songwriter, drawing on a range of influences to create music that is both powerful and thought-provoking. His work at Tigercub has won critical acclaim and a dedicated fan base, and the band's dynamic live shows and raw energy is earning them a reputation as one of the UK's most exciting new acts. With a string of successful releases and a growing following, Jamie Hall is a rising star in the world of indie rock and one to watch out for many years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast broadcast, Jamie Hall. Good morning, Jamie.
Hey, good morning. How's it going?
Good. Now, was that pretty impressive intro right there? I know that you're, college educated man. So,
well, some might say, yeah. I wanted you to keep talking. I never wanted it to stop. It was amazing. Keep going.
Oh yeah,
Tell
don't worry.
more.
There's gonna be plenty of talk, and first and foremost, I'm excited to have you on because you came across my radar of a couple of years ago. Around pandemic, I guess, because I was going through my playlist and I've hearted several songs from Tigercub, and featured them on different bands, or different shows that I've had and playlists. And so when my PD reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, you want to talk with Jamie from Tigercub?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, because
yes,
this is how I look at you guys, right? You fall into a class of kind of like a new grunge. And I look at, like, I've been in radio and the music industry here for like 15 years or so. I've seen trends come and go. I know that the early 2010s, very electronic, a lot of synth bass. And I feel like the blowback on that and the new trend is really embracing guitar rock again, getting that real heavy, dirty riffs and really going with that soft, loud, soft sound and style. And your band, along with like Dead Poet Society, Highly Suspect, just to name a few, are all part of that exciting new group making fantastic music that is basically the only way that you could simplify it is saying it's a rebirth of the grunge era without being grunge.
Yeah, I totally think so. I think you've absolutely nailed it there. I think the energy and the spirit of like back to basics and, like you were saying, loud, quiet, loud, just simple dynamics and like just people doing really interesting things without too much production elements getting in the way of that. I think there's a real resurgence. And I think, the manner that we all live in the more modern world, I think people do have an appetite to return back to basics because everything is so overcomplicated and intense in our lives, so maybe that's why there's a new wave of young rock bands coming through at the minute and really converting people into fans, and getting back into the mainstream. I definitely think so. It's really exciting. Absolutely. It's a great time to be in a band. I love it.
I bet. I bet. And you've been touring all over the world. And, you know, I'm a big believer in history repeating itself. So, you know, essentially we had the 80s synth wave and then it led into the 90s. And we just essentially had that again in 2010s. And there we go. Let's talk about the background of your setup real quick. First off, I noticed that you have that that Marlboro pack that says Nancy on it. Nancy is a side project that you worked on, right?
Yes, yeah, well spotted. Yeah, Nancy is what I did. Tigercub took a little brief interim break for like about 2 years when we were trying to get deals together in between our first and second record. And I still had loads of songs, and I always write songs, and I love it's a really important part of my life, like expressing myself through music and get my ideas down. And I had a lot of stuff that was almost more like David Bowie, Beatles inspired, maybe pointed towards like Scott Walker or like Nancy Sinatra, and you know, like Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, all that stuff's like, that's a huge part of my musical diet that I don't necessarily always get to indulge myself in with Tigercub, because I didn't want to push Tigercub too far away from what it is, which is ultimately like this brilliant raw rock band, you know. So I did Nancy in the interim, and then I made that little Siggy packet.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny too, because, and this is just another testament to where, you know, I would invest in the stock of Jamie Hall, because there was a problem with Nancy. The problem was it started taking off to a point where there was a crossroads where you're like, oh shit, do I want to do this or do I want to do Tigercub, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I got in England. The Enemy were all over it. It was played on Radio 1, which is like the sort of big major radio station in England. And it was a surprise. I remember, you know, making these songs, and it got signed immediately when my manager at the time sent it around to people. So it immediately found itself with resources and budget and stuff like that. And then all the critics loved it. And there's just this buzz, and everyone was trying, all the majors jumped in, and everyone was trying to, you know, sign me to do an album with them and stuff. And it got a bit frightening. Yeah, it felt like Tigercub was getting further and further away in the distance, and I was starting to think, oh, is this what I'm going to be really known for? Is this what I do now?
Right.
But fortunately, that wasn't so much the case. Obviously, Nancy is still going and stuff, but Tigercub came back in a big way. And you know, I love rock music at my core, and that's what makes me tick. That's the musical street that I live on, is rock music.
Right.
So there's no substitute for that. That's really, you know, that's what makes me tick. So, you know, Tigercub was always going to come back. But I had a blast writing with Nancy and releasing songs with Nancy, and it really helped my own like self-confidence, I guess, in becoming a producer, and like really just starting to understand that if I think something's good to my ears, it probably is good. Whereas before, I think I always needed maybe some reassurance from other people. You know, it's a slippery slope. You don't want to get too big-headed or anything like that. But it was cool. It was really, it gave me a lot of confidence. And I think that in turn helped Tigercub with As Blue as Indigo, second record, and even more so of this new album that we got coming out, The Perfume of Decay, out on 2nd of June. I was really able to begin to like express myself using the studio as like an instrument in itself, right? So I could, I don't know, I could expand on these ideas and sort of little visions I have for records a lot better having done Nancy, if that makes sense. I've had loads of coffee.
It completely makes sense. And we're on the same level when it comes to coffee. It's Rock 102.1 KFMA. Now we're on the FM side. We're talking with Jamie Hall from Tigercub. This is our podcast broadcast. And it's funny when you said you didn't want to get too much of a big head, which I completely agree with you, as I have a 5-foot giant head of myself behind me. So,
and it's just repeating behind me.
Yes. All right. Well, we're talking with Jamie Hall from Tigercub. Tigercub is a band that I'm super excited about, and we're going down the rabbit hole with Jamie on the podcast broadcast. We're going to have a lot, including Lyrical Breakdown, coming up after Crowbot. And I also want to talk to you about, I'll say this right now. I'm going to ask you right now because as I was coming across a couple of years ago, because you guys have been putting out albums kind of like on a global level since like 2016-ish, right?
Yeah.
You came across my radar a couple of years ago during pandemic, and every like image and picture that I saw, I just figured you were standing closer to the camera than the rest of the guys, right?
Yeah.
What is your actual height?
I'm 7 foot tall.
That's what I thought.
7 foot even. Wow.
Yes, I was supposed to be a basketball player, but fate intervened, and I ended up going into music instead. As hopefully, maybe the undisputed tallest man in rock. I'm not sure.
Yes, you are. I'll play a game, and I did fact check it for you. In fact, actually, and the world doesn't know yet, but as Tigercub continues to grow, which they will, and I'll bet my house on it, that you will be known in popular music as the tallest rock musician of all time. In fact, I was going to play a game with you, trying to say who's taller, right? And with notable tall rock stars. And I'll give you some examples, right? So my example right off the bat, when I think tall musician, Win Butler of Arcade Fire, right? Everyone
He's a very tall gentleman. Yeah,
he's a tall gentleman.
Well. Yes.
Yeah, he does. He's 6'4", dude. He's 6'4".
Wow, I thought he was much taller than that. The rest of his band must be a lot smaller.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a bit of a bombshell. That's blown my mind a little bit. I thought he was up there. I thought he was over 6'5", surely.
I thought he was 6'8". In fact, actually, I looked at the tallest rock musicians in history. Now, Bono was mentioned on there. He's 6'3", which is surprising to me.
Mhm.
But he didn't even make the top 5. Here's the top 5. And this is why you are undisputed number 1. Okay.
Okay, give it to me.
Jim Root of Slipknot and Stone Sour. He's 6'6".
Okay.
Right.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Chris Novoselic of Nirvana fame. Right.
Mhm.
He's a tall man, always known. 6'7".
Okay.
Right?
We're getting up there now. This is
Getting
in the
up there.
business end of the tall stakes here, the tall league table. Novoselic,
basketball
6'7". That's I'm glad 6'7" is the case. I always thought he was above,
You thought
very
he was
much
shorter?
above average. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
always.
I guess I thought maybe because Kurt is such a little pixie man that maybe there was some deception going on there with how little Kurt was, but yeah.
Yeah. No,
Anyway, keep going.
yeah, he's 9 feet tall in real life.
Yeah.
See, Pete Steele from Typo Negative.
That's who I thought of immediately when you said tall people, because he was tall.
Yeah, he's 6'8". And then
Nice.
who they thought and tied for tallest rock star is Arjun Lucasesin from Arion. I'm not familiar with him, unfortunately, but 6'8" as well. So you got him beat by 4 inches. That's amazing.
I'll take it. Thank you very much. I'll take that crown. I'll wear it gladly.
Yeah,
With
and
honor.
this is I'm gonna give. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with Jamie. We're keeping the conversation moving on the podcast broadcast. More right after Crowbot. Here's Golden on Rock 102.1 KFMA. All right, clear. All right, so yeah, I didn't get to explain, Jamie, but so we go back and forth from the FM side to just straight stream. So that's what we were doing there. And then so whenever I say Rock 102.1, that means no cursing.
Mhm.
And then I'll sandwich that, and then we could get liberal. And then we'll play a game with you. I want you, when we come back on the air, actually, in about 3.5 minutes, I want you to give a con of being tall in a rock band. And then I will give you a pro of being tall in a rock band. All right. And that'll be our first little game that we play. But I would think this, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but being 7 feet tall, meaning that you probably have long fingers, that's got to make you, because you are by far, you're such an amazing guitar player. This is no smoke. Legitimately, you're not afraid to create sounds that, and it's really difficult to create something fresh in the world of guitar rock, right? Because it's been around for so long. There's been plenty of examples in your catalog where I'm like, fuck, that's brilliant. And it's like this organized chaos and right. Does having longer fingers make you able to play different notes and harder notes that other average hand musicians would not be able to hit?
Yes, the average hands, as I like to call them. I think so. Yeah, I use my thumb a lot to to get like purchase on the fretboard, and I can reach like the D string with my thumb if I need. And yeah, I guess I've got like a, you know, depending where you are on the fretboard, I've probably got about a 5 fret reach between my first finger and my my pinky finger. So
Nice.
I would say so. Yeah, maybe I do have an advantage. Maybe with like speed, with like, I'm not like a total shredder, you know, but maybe if you had smaller, more dexterous hands, that would lend itself better to shredding and just like lighting up the fretboard, you know, whereas I'm a little bit, you know, more methodical and slow and stuff like that with that side of things. And also with my right hand, that's plays a huge part in how I play the guitar as well. I learned classical guitar to start with, so I learned to use every digit as well as my thumb and index finger to hold the pick as well, which really helps doing string skipping and getting different sounds out of the strings as well. And, you know, a chap called Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits is, he's from not far away from me in the UK. And he's sort of famous for not using a plectrum, as well as like Wilco Johnson from Dr. Feelgood and stuff. There's something about the sound of flesh on strings I really like, you know. But no, I'll take the compliment. Thank you very much. I'm glad you pick up on those things, you know, because they're not always really showy shredding guitar bits, but they are quite technical, and sometimes they can fly under the radar, which is a good thing, I think, because they're doing more to serve the song than to you know, steal the show. Although the Perfume and Decay, that lead lick it's obnoxiously in your face. So maybe that's the first time. Yeah,
that's a single that we're playing on the radio, and the radio's a little slow, to be honest with you, because my favorite song is you know, like the second single you just released. I love that song too, and I think that has great potential on radio. And I'm gonna play a live clip of one of my favorite songs of yours, which is off your last album, because it's so fucking good. And I played it for Wierdo this morning, and I can't help but get goosebumps and like geek out at the same time. Rock 102.1 KFMA. We were talking with Jamie Hall from Tigercub, and I'm geeking out about his music. But again, the big takeaway, and I know I'm gaining female fans for you, Jamie, every time I mention this little tidbit, especially American fans. They love it. It's probably a global thing. You're 7 feet tall. You hear that? There's half of Tucson's panties just dropped. I don't know what it is. It's the tall. Women love tall guys, right? So you being 7 feet tall is NBA level tall, right?
Yes.
And I know, it is. Being that tall in a very short world, you got to have some cons. So I want you to give me a con of being tall, and I'm going to give you a pro of being tall, because I'm a very optimistic person as well. So give me.
I like that. It's a very balanced approach you're taking here, which, you know, that's what the world's about, isn't it? Moderation. Yep. Okay, a con. There's quite a few. There are almost as many cons as there are pros with being a very tall man. I would say,
especially in a band.
Yes, in a band. I mean, travel isn't great flying. So when I travel to America from the UK on these long haul flights, sometimes it's 9 hours, sometimes it's 12 hours, it depends. But leg room is a big issue. So if I don't repurchase extra leg room seats, I end up straddling someone in the seat in front of me. They're literally between my knees because they just rise up. It's like something out of a cartoon. You know?
I'll give you a pro.
For sure.
That's a con. The pro is for the people in front of you that have now raised heated armrests that they can put on your legs. So that's actually a pro. And you probably get offered the emergency exit aisle more often than not.
Yeah. First off the plane, if anything goes down, you know, that's a huge pro. First out the door. Although I do get a bit nervous sometimes when they're running through the instructions, and I'm like, God, am I really up to this task? Can I really, in that moment, rise to the task of like being able to get the door open? You know, you don't want to get it jammed or anything like that. There's so much pressure on that one moment. But loads of. I mean, that's the thing, though. You know, you often get shown the emergency exit seat, and there's loads of legroom there, so we're all good, happy as Larry. You know,
see, that's a pro. Give me another con of being 7 feet tall in a rock band.
Okay, come on, let's think. Well, sometimes lighting is an issue, as in, park cans that are hanging down and little things that are hanging down from the ceiling on a lower stage. I've been on some stages where, I wasn't able to stand. And in fact, when we played our last show in LA, we had to move the venue to Harvard and Stone. I would have to look up the venue that it got moved from because this was a little while ago. But our buddies, the promoters, were like, "Jay, dude, you can't physically stand up on that stage. We'd have to sit you down on a chair to do this gig." No. So they had to move the show. They moved the show. It was great in the end, but that's a definite con. When you're cold calling into a venue on the circuit that you've never been to before, you don't know what that headroom's going to be.
Right. Yeah, so, especially at this level as you're coming up. But I will give you a pro. All right. The pro is for the fan that is coming to the show, because no matter how short you are or how tall the person in front of you is, no matter where you are in the venue, you can see Jamie Hall.
Yes.
That's a guarantee. Just look up.
Optimistic. Love it. Yeah, just look up. I'm right there. I'm like a beanpole. I should put like a siren light on my head or something so everyone can see me. I love it, but I don't need any stage rises or anything like that. Boom. No. My round head is just there.
Who needs a stage
for all to see, That's
you can jump off the stage and perform in the middle of the crowd and still look like you're on a high rise.
Oh man, I used to do that when I was performing with Nancy. It was terrifying for people. I remember playing South by Southwest at Javelina, and my whole thing was like, right, I'm getting in this crowd, I'm getting up in people's faces. And I saw videos back, and it's just terrifying, having this.
Yeah, you're 2 feet taller than me. I'm 5 foot.
Yeah. Now you're just a humble brag. We're keeping the conversation moving on the podcast broadcast. There's more optimism at youtube.com/bevegan. All right, clear. All right, so and then we're gonna be playing The Perfume of Decay as my single song takeover. So I've been beaten down management, right? So as I'm trying to resurrect this station, bring it up to prominence, and of course radio, you think about the future of radio, and sometimes you gotta think in the past for the future of radio, and I usually get in trouble for dropping songs I don't believe belongs on this format, right? But at the same time, ratings are growing, the audience is growing, it's working. So they'd be compromising, right? And one of the compromises is that in the 9 o'clock hour, I could play whatever song I want. One song, whatever song it may be. And I call it the single song takeover. That's the first compromise. And what they don't realize is they fucked up, because it starts with one song and then it ends up being the whole show. I'll get there. So the single song takeover today, of course, will be your song. But I do want, the song that I love is Like a Bass Drum, right? Cool. Yeah, and this song, I'm going to play just a little clip for our streaming audience. I have a live version of it. Now, it's a live version. I'm only going to play about a minute of this, right? The audio is actually all right. But, of course, it's not like a record quality audio. But you get a good idea of how hard this song hits. It's a headbanger. It's catchy. It's beautiful. And again, it goes soft, loud, soft, like that combo. When it hits, it hits a little harder. And so without further ado, check this out. Waiting for the first raindrop, getting on my face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because
good.
yeah, you get the head banging when it hits, and I get it. Like the reason why I played that is because we're live streaming. I don't want to get flagged and booted off our streaming
Got you.
sites and stuff because licensed music. But you guys got to just check it out and add it to your list because you do yourself a favor. It is amazing. So we're gonna play a game with you before we get into Lyrical Breakdown, which is a game I usually play as I talk to musicians with expansive catalogs. I know that you don't have like a catalog of over 20 years. So I'm going to make the game a little more difficult and only give you one line. And you're going to have to tell me the name of the song and the album it came from. And it's yours. Okay. But that's good news. But what point in life did you hit your growth spurt?
My growth spurt. I would say secondary school. So what's that, like high school in America? That's when I really started to put my foot on the gas there, and I started to really shoot up. I remember, primary school or middle school or first school, whatever you call it in the States. I think middle school. I was just average on the taller end of the spectrum, and then I just became, the tallest man ever. I've got a little bit of Norwegian in my family and a little bit of Dutch as well. So, tall people, and I have a mixture of the both. So, that was it. So my whole life, I've always been the tallest guy in the room.
Was that tough for you? Was that hard for you? Do you go through some tough times? Because it does kind of like separate you from a lot of people sometimes, just being that tall. And going through high schools is hard enough, right?
I think people maybe felt like back in the day they had a little bit more license to go in a bit harder on me, because being tall is like widely seen as a positive thing in the public sphere. So people don't. It's not like an immediate downside. So getting people picking fights with you and stuff like that. That was always a thing. Always
sick,
I always loved. David Bowie and the New York Dolls and all of that stuff. So, I wanted, and the Rolling Stones when I was younger, I got into all of those bands earlier. So, I would try and dress like those guys as well, which didn't help, So I was a little bit, a little bit more flamboyant back in the day. So, whatever I got, I brought it on myself, but it wasn't too bad. We've all
try to force you into sports being that tall? Did they try to force you into basketball and or stuff like that?
A lot of people would suggest that I play basketball. I do like basketball, but I was always more into football or soccer in the UK. So I did play a little bit of that, and I still do. I really enjoy it, but I just I wish I did play more basketball and got that like explosive, got some more agility, because I've got the reach. Maybe it's something I could come to later in life.
It's the backup plan.
You're gonna come pro after
fullback.
All right, let's play Lyrical Breakdown here. Let's see. I like to set this up properly here as I go. Okay. Jamie Hall from Tigercub. I want to play a game. All right. So this game's called Lyrical Breakdown. It's going to be very simple. These are your lyrics. Okay. So I'm going to give you just a line, and you're going to have to tell me the name of the song and the album it came from, if it came off of an album. Okay. And then I'll probably ask follow-ups about that. Now, going through your songwriting, you're a very prolific poet. I dig it. Also, there's an element of sadness as a running theme, right? Do you feel inspired more so by feeling down on yourself than, say, writing a song when you're feeling more up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just find that there's a flip side to writing about sadness, and I think it ultimately, through like catharsis and through people having gone through the same thing that you've gone through, there's resolve there. And I find resolve can be like just this immense thing. It's something that I love in records that I listen to and artists that I'm really fond of. There's just this there's this resolve that comes from getting through the storm with someone on a song. So I get endorphins when I listen to sad music. When I listen to Elliott Smith, it makes me feel happy, as strange as that sounds. But You know what I mean? Do you know where I'm coming from there? It's kind of like a tangible thing, but I guess that's why you make music and art in the first place, to try and express these things that words always fall short on. But it just feels like it's a natural place for me to go to.
Yeah, no, and I think that's very relatable. I call it like dark sunshine, something to where
Right.
the undertone of it is, it could be brooding and could be depressing, but really it's wrapped in this like kind of upbeat and it gets you kind of high. And so
Yeah.
it's that contradiction I love so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of these songs, again, whether these are songs that are written about heartbreak or whatever the case, they do have that element where the music is taking you one level and it's up, and then the lyrics and stuff, if you dissect them, you see like the deepness and very relatable. So we're playing Lyrical Breakdown here with Jamie Hall from Tigercub. Before I get into the Perfume of the Decade of Decay, the new single from Tigercub. So I'm going to just read you this lyric. You tell me which song it came from and what the album is. Ready?
Okay.
I reside in the broken memories that made you old.
Made you old. Oh God.
These are your lyrics.
Made you old. I'm just cycling back from our live show now.
See, this is what's great about muscle memory.
I know, yeah, totally. It's like I've been at home for a few months, so it's all slipped to the back of my mind. Tell me, remind me, what is that one again? It's off as Blues Indigo, I'm sure.
It was not. Let's see. I gotta hit the buzzer on you, Jamie Hall from Tigercub. It is Burning Effigies from Abstract.
It's Burning Effigies. I knew that. No. Yeah! I knew it was Burning Effigies. Come on.
You know what? This is not as easy as a game as you would assume it to be, and a lot of people get stuck.
I'm gonna walk this. This is so easy. Too easy. And then first question, forgot my own song. Wow. Burning Effigies, though, I definitely think that is a good one.
Yeah, it's a great line too.
Tell me
Tell me what that line means to you. I reside in the broken memories that made you old. What does that mean?
I guess people in my life that were so tethered to the past, I guess at the time with that record, there was a lot going on in the world politically and stuff like that. So I felt like everyone was really kind of getting too focused on a rose-tinted, romanced version of the past that maybe didn't even exist in the first place. So it's trying to communicate that, I think.
I love that. Excellent explanation. We're going to continue Lyrical Breakdown here after we play our single song takeover song. Now, I'm super excited about this. This is just added to rotation on the station. It's the first you may hear of Tigercub on KFMA, but I promise you, it won't be the last. Their well runs deep. And I'll let you introduce it for us, Jamie. So if you would like, take it away.
Of course. Hello, I'm Jamie from a rock band called Tigercub from the UK, and this is our track, The Perfume of Decay.
Clear. Perfect. It's right there. That's
amazing.
Good. Yeah.
Great. I panicked there. I was like,
no, that was good. Yeah. I have a tendency of just throwing things out there and putting people on the spot, and you did fantastic. So I was just like, that. By the way, do that. All right.
Yeah.
Now, what is your process for, because again, looking at these lyrics, like you said, very, very poetic. Mm-hmm. Do you just do kind of like a large kind of write session and kind of pick and choose, or do you go into songs specifically with a purpose?
It depends. It really depends. Sometimes the lyrics just fall from the sky, and entire songs fall from the sky when I'm out walking or doing something that's completely unrelated to songwriting. And other times I really want a specific hook, a tagline to sort of capture a feeling as almost like a fingerprint of a track. I do tend to lean on the side of, you kindly put it as poetic, but I kind of like to leave a little bit of vagueness and room for interpretation with my lyrics, because sometimes I think like an unfinished idea is actually quite a lot more powerful than something that is really, on the nose and a dead cert. it doesn't make it better than lyrics that are on the nose and a dead set. You know what I'm talking about? But sometimes
Absolutely.
it can be nice just
Right.
to leave a layer removed, so it's a little bit more subtle, and I think you're inviting the listener in to interpret it however they see fit. And I'm just sort of throwing out these, these moods and this loose imagery, that's like, it's just sort of like throwing these sort of descriptive words into like an emotional pool that we all get into. It's so hard to explain. I hope I'm doing a good job. I hope I'm making
I think
sense.
you did a fantastic
That
job.
was, yeah, that was good. That's me a lot of times with music, is it's not necessarily a genre I'm looking for. It's a mood.
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on in my day or what's going on in my life. Absolutely. I think mood is the key word there.
Well, that's how,
Yeah.
I'm not a musically educated person, right? Like I could barely tell the difference between a major note and a minor note.
Mhm.
I base music based off what I feel, right?
Right.
And if I feel it,
Me too.
that's essentially how I rate it without dissecting it. So, but I can also appreciate when something is complex or, elevated as far as talent goes on many different aspects. So the sound and the guitar work is one of those things where I'm just like, oh shit, I think you're right now like maybe rock music's best kept secret as far as guitarist is concerned.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. But again, I'll put my money on it. And I'm not, having you on is a pleasure. And I'm not kissing your ass for the sake of kissing ass. I'm only going to be honest with you. And yeah, I think you're going to prove me right as you continue to put out this great music. But let's see how good your memory
Thank
is.
you.
We got 23 seconds and we're going to
Okay.
continue this. Yes, you might be a great guitarist, but you might be shitty at lyrical breakdown. Okay. Now, again, it's so great with the muscle memory too. And it's great to play this with songwriters because essentially you can remember every lyric if you say the first lyric or you hit that first note. Then the rest just kicks in. Right. But
of course.
yeah, we're going out of context with it. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Tigercub with The Perfume of Decay, the song you're going to hear on the station often. I encourage you to go down the rabbit hole, check out the catalog of Tigercub. Our in-studio, podcast broadcast guest is lead singer and guitarist Jamie Hall from the band. A couple other songs that you need to check out. Stop Beating on My Heart Like a Bass Drum is my first and foremost suggestion. Beauty is Beautiful. Beauty is the name of the song, and I think the song is beautiful. Blue Mist in My Head, and just a ton. It's great because your catalog runs deep, and that's why we're playing this game. It's Lyrical Breakdown. So when we left you, Jamie could not remember a lyric from Burning Effigies off the Abstract album, which came out in 2016.
I'll never live it down. I'll never live it down.
You will not. All right. So the name of the game is, I'm going to read this lyric out of context, out of rhythm. You're going to tell me the name of the song and the album it came from.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's our next lyric. You melt me like an ice cap. You're the alibi I need.
It's Shame.
That
Come
is
on.
Shame.
Yeah.
It's Shame.
That's all
I know
right.
my
He
own
knows the
songs.
song.
Oh God, I'm so relieved.
Redemption.
Redemption. Shame.
Yeah.
Yes, second record. I think it's a little treat on that second record that hasn't had the discovery factor that a lot of our other songs have had. So I'm glad you picked that one out. I really like Shame.
Well, it's beautiful. I like the metaphor. As Blue as Indigo is essentially your pandemic record,
Yes.
which you've written during lockdown. Of course, the uncertainty that we were all feeling at that time, and then that record, it really translates in, and I think propels you forward in this fearlessness of saying, you know what, this is what we like. This is where we're just going to try it. We're going to throw it against the wall, regardless. And not be afraid if people like it or love it, because it's the end of times, bitch. I don't even care, and it turns out that the record from beginning to end is beautiful.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I look back on that record really fondly. The making of that record was tense. The day that we started tracking was the day that the Prime Minister at the time in the UK, Boris Johnson, announced the lockdown. So we had to basically stay at the studio because, we were there.
That's good timing.
We were, it was very good timing. Yeah. So we were quarantined in the studio for, a couple of weeks, and then we were able to get back home to our partners and stuff. But yeah, man, that was our lockdown record, and it was a long time in the making. It took me ages to write it. It took me and the boys ages to routine the tracks. And yeah, you're right. It was really fearless. And it goes back to what I was saying about Nancy. You know, that was the first record I did after having done Nancy. So I had a lot more self-assurance and a lot more backbone about the decisions that I wanted. And having the ability to push things further and be like, look, this is not good enough. Let's, we need to go harder into the red. We need to rethink this, just making big calls in the studio. So I'm really grateful that I had that experience. And I think it shows on that second record, As Blue as Indigo. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we were just talking about lyrics and how I do prefer them to be on the more on the less on the nose side. But As Blue as Indigo was definitely the start of my journey into just, just risking something a little bit more and talking about how I feel in ways that are more further towards the surface, because this is another thing, right, with lyric writing. If you bare your soul on a song and people don't like that, that's a hard thing to come to terms with. It's quite a scary thing, and I think I used to use almost like an alt rock kind of persona, to communicate my ideas and thoughts, but that was always safe. There's a lot of safety in that. Whereas bearing your soul and not being afraid to tell people how you feel and what's going on in your life, that's a really scary thing. And you do get people, like my parents and stuff. They're like, "Oh, are you okay? Is everything okay? I heard this song. I didn't realize you felt like this." So there's just all of these repercussions that come into play. So yeah, that it was a hugely transformative time for me, and it's put us on this path. And I feel like the Perfume of Decay, our third record that's coming out this year, is really I've perfected that craft now, and it's I'm 2 years older, 2 years wiser from that record, and I think it shows. I think people are really gonna love this record even more than our first two. I've got a lot of faith in it.
I think Perfume of Decay is also a great introduction for people just checking out for the first time and seeing your experimental or hearing your experimental guitar work and how, like fearless you are as a guitar player. Before we get into, I have a very American question I'm going to ask you, which is your Mount Rushmore of guitar players. Okay. So that's, but before we get into that, we are all tied up. Okay. One for me, one for you, lyrical breakdown. Okay. So this is the tiebreaker. Let's see if you know these lyrics. Okay. So I'm trying to pick a good one. I have several selections.
Please.
And then,
please.
All right, here we go. Not physical, not impolite, running too hard, I go all night.
Come on now. It's too easy. This is
all right. Well, no. I take it back.
Come on.
All right, I take that back. That one doesn't count, Jamie. All right, how about this one?
All right.
You better hold your breath.
All right.
If you're out of your depth, boy. Water gonna rise every time your back is turned.
Your back is turned. Black Tides. Come on. You can't get me anymore. You fooled me once. That's it. That's all you're getting. Nothing else.
What? I'll take that small, tiny victory. Yeah, you might have won the war, but at least I got one good battle in and stumped you on the first one.
You got me.
Water gonna rise every time you turn. Every time your back is turned. I always, I'm intrigued by that lyric as well. What do you mean by it?
Black Tides. I'm very fond of that song. I mean, I love gospel music, and I really wanted a old school stomp clap, just to reduce the songwrite as a set piece on a record. I wanted to just do something as simple as possible without any pretense or anything. It's just a vocal stomp clap and then a little bit of harmony that comes in towards the end, right? So I was really pleased to be able to get that on the record and demonstrate, that side of my songwriting. And then as far as the lyrics goes, God, it just felt like in 2016, it just felt like, again, it's something about Tigercub records. We always end up making them, you know, in these moments where it feels like the world's going to end. And in 2016, you know, there was a lot of stuff happening in the world politically. There was just a lot of unrest, and there was a lot of fear around. And that's Black Tides is like my doomsday song. You know, I live by the sea in Brighton on the south coast of England, and I'm right on the seafront. I can see the sea from here, and it just felt like the world was just going to swallow me up. You know, water's going to rise every time your back's turned. It's just, you know, you relax for 1 minute and you let your guard down, and then, you know, next thing you know, it's gotten even worse. You know, I guess maybe it's about indecision. It's so hard sometimes to unpack lyrics, because they come from this like really deep place, and it's part of the reason why I need to write songs and make songs to express these things. I can't do it. It's so hard to do it with words. You know, I could talk for like hours on it, and it would just be rambling. You know, but yeah,
You're not rambling. You're making sense. I love it.
General, you know, general sense of dread, to quote Superhands.
And it's just the style of music I love, man. You know, and you speaking of bands that are like-minded in this class, you just announced to be on a new tour, which can be with Bad Flower and Des Rocks again. These are two other bands that fit that description perfectly. This class, this rock and roll class that we're experiencing, that is popular for sure. I don't think has crossed that line yet to where everyone's caught up. But when they do, that is our future. That is our future of festivals and everything else. And I'm stoked about it. So, were you excited about this?
Back. Big style. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm a huge fan of Bad Flower, and we went out with Highly Suspect a couple of months ago, and similar world to Bad Flower that they inhabit. You know, rock and roll's coming back. And it's selling tickets, you know, they're selling out theaters, they're onto arenas next. You know, it's only the beginning. You're exactly right. And, you know, this underground, if you could call it that at the minute, this like just below the breaking point is the most exciting time to see all of these groups. You mentioned Dead Poet Society, and now is the time when you want to get out and see this stuff right before it gets too big and it runs the risk of, you know, becoming something that, you know, a shadow of its former self. Because as you know, in the cycle of rock bands, this is a thing that happens more often than not. You know, in order to appeal to a super commercial audience, you know, bands and artists will ultimately lose something that was really special that they had back in their early days. You know, and you're right to champion these up and coming bands, and thank you so much for having me on your show as well, and helping shine a light on what we do. You know,
I'll tell you what,
now's the time. You know, now's the time to get out and see some rock music.
Yeah, I'll humble brag for you real quick. You know, I have a small reputation among certain circles of doing pretty good in taste making and selecting and predicting. And you'll meet musicians that maybe know. Maybe not. What's your favorite Bad Flower record?
I really like Ghost off Okay I'm Sick. I read that record for me is the one that I fell in love with. Yeah, I think that's the main one for me.
The one I can't get enough of is 30. Like, and the way they break that down, like, this is fucking 30, you're just like, it is. It is. So
it is, man. It's so good.
Something I'm finding super impressive with Jamie, your knowledge of the influences that you have, the rock history, the technical part. I mean, I haven't said a whole lot because I'm super impressed.
Oh, well, I'm glad you think so. I'm not perfect. There's always blind spots. I forget my own songs, you know. But
you forgot one. It's okay.
I'll never live it down. Nope. I'll be lying awake tonight. You know,
I'm gonna be making a YouTube clip of just that, and be like, "Does Jamie Hall remember his own lyrics?" No.
Singer can't even
stupid
remember his
question.
own songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid question real quick. Obviously Tiger Cub's been around for a while before pandemic. Of course, when pandemic hit, we were all stuck at home watching TV, and then Tiger King became a huge phenomenon.
Yeah.
Were you pissed
Yeah.
that they didn't license Tiger Cub music for that?
Yes. Yeah. I complained. I lawyered up, and we're still fighting that. We're fighting that battle. No, man, when Tiger King came out, right, at the time I had a mullet. So I had like a fringe cut in, and it was, everyone makes mistakes in life, all right?
Yeah.
And Tiger King came out, I was like, oh man, my days are numbered here. It's
gotta
only a matter
grow
of
my
time
hair
before I
out.
start. Yeah, let's address this. But yeah, God, that was such a great documentary. I remember learning about the Tiger King through Louis Theroux, the documentary maker, because I think he hit him up way back when, sort of similar to yourself. He got there nice and early, got in early before it blew up. But yeah, man,
He saw a
watch
train
out.
wreck and he was like, "This is gold." Yeah.
Yeah, point a camera at that.
Yep.
For sure.
We got about a minute before we're on the FM side, and I'm going to ask you the Mount Rushmore question, which I feel like is a pretty American question, but you're familiar with Mount Rushmore, and you went to university as well. Where'd you go to university?
The University of Sussex.
Oh yeah. What was your major there? Did you have a major? Okay.
I guess music. Yeah, sort of a BA honors in music.
Well, that's good. So you went into university with the purpose of what you're doing now. So it wasn't like you were trying to be an accountant and music just pulled you away.
Man, I've been ride or die my whole life. When I first started out in the northeast of England, around the working men's clubs, there's a big like tribute band, sort of covers band scene around there. So, from 12, 13, I was out playing with all of that stuff. And fortunately, I've always known that I want to be a musician, songwriter, artist, express myself my whole life, so I've just been ride or die from moment one.
So you've been playing super young, and is you being tall, was you were able to go play at clubs that were like 21 and up, but people wouldn't question you because you were so tall?
Yes. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That was another pro of being a tall man. Baby face though, I had the face of a child, even more so back then.
We were talking with Jamie Hall, Tiger Cub on Rock 102.1 KFMA. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
I do want to ask you this while we have a minute or two on the FM side. Since you're a fantastic guitar player, and honestly, you guys got to check out the catalog of Tiger Cub to understand all the great riffs and the heavy riffs that Tiger Cub provides, courtesy of Jamie Hall. Who is your Mount Rushmore of guitar players?
I would say, okay, so we have to mention Jimi Hendrix. This is Jimi Hendrix has to be on there. All right. I know you'll argue, but Jimmy is the ultimate king. I love Wilco Johnson from Dr. Feelgood. And God, this is
That's two.
Who do I pick between? Jimmy Page, because I don't want to be too obvious, but at the same time, the greats are great because they're great. And it's great. So, all right, we got to say Jimmy Page, because although he's not the most the cleanest of players, the sounds and the vision of him as a producer, I think, are just completely unmatched. So we got the two Jimmys.
Yep.
We got Wilco Johnson. Now on Mount Rushmore is it 4 or 5?
Four.
It's four. Okay, so we got one more. I'm going to throw a curveball, all right? And this is because I want to seem cool. But I also do really love his guitar playing. Nick Drake. Acoustic finger picking. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
As well. Yeah.
Excellent influences that all meshed
that's
together.
That's my hipster influence.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Jeff Beck, because Jimmy Page notoriously, borrowed a couple things.
Late great Jeff Beck. No, very true. And what he did, the Yardbirds and stuff, and everything else, and just that real mellifluous. Yeah, I mean, sorry, Jeff. I stick by my choices, man. I live and die by the sword.
Right. We're gonna keep the conversation moving on the podcast broadcast, and we'll wrap things up with Jamie Hall right after these words. Stick around. Clear. right, so we only got a few more minutes, about 7 more minutes, and I appreciate all the time that you're giving us,
Yeah.
Jamie, because you know, I'm just excited and enjoy this conversation. So,
Oh, me too. I'm having
it-
fun. Thanks for having me.
yeah, of course, dude. And I mean, it's a bummer that you're playing on the first, but we'll mention your show here in Arizona, even though it's a
Mhm.
little trek away. It's about an hour and 45 minutes, but very familiar with the Rebel Lounge. I'm from Phoenix. Friends
Nice.
with the owner and promoter Steve there, Psycho Steve. So that's a very historic building that you're gonna go into. So low
Yeah.
ceilings, so that's gonna suck for
Okay.
you. So try not to hit your head on any of the beams.
Oh, thanks for
But
the heads up. No pun intended.
yeah, yeah, but a lot of bands have, a lot of legends have played in that building before they went on. Nirvana, to name one, right? Like
Wow. Wow.
a lot of people that have played. It used to be called the Mason Jar,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
now it's the Rebel Lounge, and Steve took it over and revitalized it, and it's very nice, good sound, intimate. And it's a trip too, because are you still touring in a van right now when you do the club gigs?
Yes, for the minute. Yeah, as
Mhm.
we're rising up through the ranks, we're still keeping our overheads as low as possible. So we are in like a Ford Transit, like a long wheelbase sort of like people transporter. So it's pretty comfy. I can on those long drives, I can survive. I can make it happen. That's great to know about the Rebel Lounge. I've never been to Phoenix before, only been to Tucson. So we're really looking forward to all these shows. They're selling great, which is just blowing our minds. So it's just gonna be an old school rock show, and the last time we headlined in America, we sold out our shows and they were rowdy as anything,
Yeah.
and if they start to become anything like our UK shows, it's just gonna be like WWE punch up. It's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome.
Yes.
a
So I can't
rager.
wait to get out there. Yeah, man, I need to do my homework on that venue. But yeah, thanks for that information. That's
Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
really
Mhm.
excited now.
I'm
Yeah.
sure Steve would love to tell you the history of the building, and that's great that it's selling. And honestly, we'd be having the same conversation of us up in Phoenix. The only difference is we'd be doing it at the Rebel Lounge for sure because
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. But since you're playing on a Monday night and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're gonna have to do this show without me this time. All right, but I promise that I will be catching you live as soon as possible.
Oh, I hope so.
And
I hope so. Well, you'll be in our minds and hearts as we're playing our show.
fair
You'll
enough,
be thinking,
fair
I'll
enough.
share the
Yeah.
singles here.
You can shout out "Be Vegan," and you might have a small reaction there or not. I don't know. I mean, it's I got friends up there. And then, so how long's this run with Bad Flower?
It is with Bad Flower. It's 3 weeks, I believe. We're out for 5
Nice.
weeks in total. So we're making like a nice riff sandwich where the bun is our headline shows and Bad Flower are the filling. Okay,
Okay.
so that's how we're doing it. Yeah, so we get out there, start in Austin, and then move over to the West Coast, headline show, and then we pick up a Bad Flower, and then we have our own headline shows at the end on the East Coast, doing all of the big cities, and we just can't wait. We love America so much; it blows our mind every time, and it'll be the third time that we've toured America.
Well, it's always the
You know.
goal, right? I mean, it seems like
Yeah.
every, they want to be able to conquer America as well. First, it's conquer home, and then be like,
Mhm.
will this translate? And sometimes it doesn't. But
Oh man,
I think,
for real.
yeah, I think you have all the tangibles that make you a superstar, and proof of that was, with was Nancy, which is side projects. You can't even
Yeah.
fuck around without making a hit. So the songwriting ability that you have is through the roof, and of course, with Tigercub, it is the sound. It's a sound that people are loving, and a lot of people don't even know it's a sound yet, but they will. It's bubbling up, growing every day. Your Spotify numbers growing every day, so it's good.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a quick wrap up here on the air, and then I'll let you get back to things. What's that thing that's right behind you though? That musical or it looks like an old mixer 808.
Yeah, so we got the 808 behind me, and then we've got
That's
a
what it is. Okay.
Prophet One, and some guitar pedals, a nice old Yamaha digital effects emulator thing, which is wicked. Yeah,
Nice.
this is like my musical space.
Yeah, no, it's a good little
got a
office
couple
you
of-
got there.
Yeah, tape machines and stuff over there. It's great. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right. We got 7 seconds. We're gonna do a quick plug on the show, and thank you again. Let's see. Rock 102.1. All right, that's all the time we have for the show, unfortunately. But I had a great time talking with you, Jamie Hall from Tigercub. I'm excited about your band, and I wish you the best of luck in this run. And I'm guaranteeing you. Well, I don't want to guarantee it, but I do bet money and stuff, and I predict big things for you. And I know that you're not going to make me a liar, so thank you for that. You guys can check out Tigercub live at the Rebel Lounge on May 1st. All right, so you got to do a little road trip, but that's the closest you can see with them. And then they just announced a tour with Bad Flower and Des Rocks. That's going to be around the country. You might have to fly to those, but either way, big things happening for Tigercub. Jamie, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And clear. Yeah. And then we're on the outro song. I got a heart out. They gave me a heart out, Jamie, but that's all right. Soon enough, I'll be able to go out whenever I want to go out. And that was kind of a rush thank you and salutations, but I can't thank you enough. And I mean everything. So I just look forward to checking out everything that you're releasing. And, yeah. And anything you want to add on to before we let Jamie go, Weirdo?
I mean, I'm seeing you guys being a new favorite for me. He introduced you guys to me this morning, and I mean, your songs fuck, man. They're so
Yeah,
good.
they fuck,
yeah. Thank you. Oh man, it's warming my heart hearing all of that. Thanks so much for your support, and thanks for letting us, use your platform to spread the good word. Man, means a lot. Let's do it
We're
again.
going to continue to do it. Yes.
Yeah.
So we will talk again, Jamie. Till then, have safe travels and enjoy the US. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, chaps. Really appreciate it. Have a nice day.
You too.
All right, thanks.
And here's
Cheers.
our outro. Boop, boop. This is how fancy I am.